So, a quick look at what we have on our agenda today. And shortly, I'm going to be talking about the EU Climate Pact, especially for those of us who have not joined this lunch talk before. For those who have been in 1 to 6, then you're familiar with that, but just a few additions. And then shortly, you'll be hearing from Michael Deen, who is the project coordinator, Community Energy Hub. Michael will be giving you just an introduction to the Community Energy Hub. And of course, after the webinar, you can reach out to him if you have questions. And then you'll be hearing from Colm O'Mahony, who is the domestic retrofits lead, Southeast Energy Agency. Colm will be talking to you about vulnerable households, talking to you about integrated home renovation services. You most likely know it as one-stop shops. The both of them are actually the same thing. So he's going to be talking to you about that and the strategies against energy poverty. And then just a brief overview again of where we are on the project for EU Climate Pact and what our next steps will be. Okay, so I think I'll just go on to start so we can be on time. All right, some of us are already probably familiar with the EU climate law, so I'm just going to run through this. We know that by 2030, we're trying to cut emissions by at least 55%, and by 2050, we're hoping to be climate neutral. Lots of steps, lots of fundings are going into this. One of such is the EU Climate Pact. Now, what really is this EU Climate Pact? That's the European Climate Pact. I would say it's you, it's me, it's all of us, it's everyone who is working in the space of climate change coming together to build a more sustainable Europe. The aim game, trying to be climate neutral, like I said, by 2050. So the Climate Pact will present an opportunity for you to learn about climate change, connect with other people, develop and also implement solutions. So what we really aim to do is to raise awareness about climate change. We also hope to inform people about policies, about fundings. Most times we get questions about what fundings are available. Now, being a part of the EU Climate Pact, you have access to these fundings. You have information about these fundings. And then we encourage people to take action. That is primarily our target, especially as we're getting ready to start Work Plan 3. So for Southeast Energy Agency, we are known as the country coordinator for Ireland. And what we do is basically to connect people who are already working in the climate space to build on what already exists and also just trying to amplify the voices. So what we also do is we connect with local authorities. We work with the European Commission representation in Ireland. We work with DECC. We work with the DG Klima as well. And then we currently have 30 Climate Pact ambassadors in Ireland, and these people are operating in different spheres of life. Some of them are in Cork, in Waterford, in Wexford, in Carlow, in Kilkenny, in Tipperary, in Dublin, Meath, Wicklow, Mayo. So I'm just going to take a back seat now and stop sharing my screen and allow our very next speaker, Michael Deen, to give his presentation. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Adema. Afternoon, everyone. I'll just pull up my slides here. Can you see these okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. So yeah, I'm here to introduce the Community Energy Hub to you this afternoon. This is a project the Southeast Energy Agency has been delivering over the past couple of months. So it was part of Strand 2 of the Community Climate Action Fund, where the whole purpose is to develop toolkits for communities to engage in climate action and increase awareness. So we wanted to, as an energy agency, we have only a certain amount of reach to, meet vulnerable communities. So as part of this project, we have teamed up with library services across the Southeast to deliver independent, trustworthy, reliable information on all things energy. So there's two real main parts to the Community Energy Hub. We've got our energy resources. So it's a range of assets to help users better understand their energy and how they can reduce it. So this goes from understanding your energy bills, so On the website, we've got examples of energy bills from the 5 biggest providers, and showing you how to read all the statements and fully understand, because that's really the starting point for understanding your energy is looking at your current use and what you could be doing to change that. We've also got some cost-free saving tips. We understand that not energy upgrades are expensive, and there's like a middle ground where some people just don't fall into the bracket to receive free upgrades. And so we've got some free energy saving tips there that people can implement in their home cost-free. We've also got a jargon buster on there to break down any of the technical terminology within energy upgrades. And we've got energy upgrade FAQs as well. Plus, there's lots more. Now, these materials were developed in partnership with the libraries and from our stakeholder groups. So it was really, we used that as understanding where the gaps in the knowledge in the public are. So, yep, there's lots on there that you can improve your energy knowledge. Then we have our grant finder tool. So there are other grant finder tools out there that people can use. A lot of them are connected to commercial interests. We wanted to create one that was independent and trustworthy, and then people could take the next steps themselves. So in just a matter of minutes, just filling out a short questionnaire, users can get a full list of grants that are available to them, and within that it shows the grant value, the cost savings expected, the comfort increase, and the carbon emissions that those upgrades can lead to. Another little bonus of the project was obviously it's a climate action project, so we wanted to make the website as sustainable as possible. And this is kind of a new field that's emerging, and it's kind of simplifying websites. It's not bombarding websites with loads of fancy visuals and videos. It's about really maximizing imagery as much as possible. So the website code's also optimized for energy efficiency, and as I said, large images and videos are replaced with intentionally used lightweight graphics, and the website's hosted with a green hosting provider which prioritizes energy efficiency. We really thought this was important. In Ireland, over 20% of our electricity is being used for data centers, not even including the water usage. So I think although it's a drop in the water, it's important that we did this as a form of best practice. And as you can see here, the website scores an A+, and it's 93% cleaner than web pages globally. So you can test, if you've got your own website, you can test it out. It's a free service, and it's a good insight, and you might be able to make some changes to your own website as well based on that. As part of the project, we also purchased 2 additional home energy saving kits for each of the library services. These kits include 5 tools, a thermal leak detector, fridge freezer thermometer, temperature and humidity meter, and a plug-in energy monitor and radiator key. These are available to rent from your local library nationwide, and they're incredibly popular. There's a waiting list in pretty much every library for these kits. So we thought it was important that people had the tools to be able to understand their energy at home as well. They can borrow it. So we purchased 2 additional kits per library in the southeast. So we launched the platform and the project in September. We had 4 launch events across the southeast. Great support from the libraries in promoting these and getting engagement going for that. And in terms of the website, we've had 2,300 users from September to March. I'm sure that's increased over the past month, but so that's an average of 330 average users accessing home energy information and grant advice for energy upgrades. Another thing that we ran as part of the project was to provide energy clinics. It's one thing having a suite of resources online, but there is still a percentage of the population that won't use online resources, and they want that human contact in person. So what we did was, in partnership with the libraries, we offered monthly energy clinics. Now this was really up to the libraries. We worked with them to decide where the best venues for these were. But this was an opportunity for the public to get cost-free energy advice. And as you can see, we had over 106 members of the public benefiting from these from September to March. So this was really valuable and give us a lot of insight into the needs and supports that we can provide the public. So what's next for the Community Energy Hub? We're going to be continuing the energy clinics on a quarterly basis going forward. As energy information is constantly changing, grants are changing, we're going to be continually improving on that. And user feedback is incredibly important for the project. It's for the people, so we'll be continuing to improve based on the public's feedback of the platform. And that's everything from myself. You can visit communityenergyhub.ie to test it for yourselves and get some energy advice. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Michael, for your presentation. Please, if you do have questions for Michael, you could raise your hand or just put it in the chat and we will respond to it, or rather, Michael will respond to it. So please go ahead and ask any question that you have. But while we're waiting for your questions to come in, Michael, just curious, you did talk about the home energy saving kit. So, how can individuals, not communities, maybe a person, just a person, walk in and how do they access this home energy saving kits? Do they just go to the library to borrow it? Is there a process of collecting it?
Yeah, so I mean, it's you basically look at it as a book, borrowing a book from the library. So you obviously need to have a library membership, and it's the same as going in and getting a book. Now there is quite a waiting list, so you could be waiting a couple of weeks, but it's as easy as borrowing a book from the library.
Okay, pretty straightforward. So anyone can have access to it.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Okay, now who can participate in the energy clinics? Anyone as well, or
Again,
you have to be
anyone at all,
okay.
at all. We were anybody at all. It depends on, obviously we're only really focusing on the southeast, but and it would need to be, you'd need to be close to that library obviously for access. So anybody can join the energy clinics and get expert advice.
Okay, so for now it's only holding in the libraries, and it's not a case of maybe if someone has maybe you have a community center or something, can you go there to do trainings, or for now it's just the libraries?
Outside of outside of the project, yes, Southeast Energy Agency do go provide energy clinic type services to communities, but at the moment, as part of the project, it is just in the libraries.
Okay. Verona has a question here asking, is this something that will be launched across the country, or is it only in the southeast?
At the moment, it's only in the southeast. As part of the Community Climate Action Fund Strand 2, these toolkits were meant to be replicable across the country, but there's big question marks over the funding because obviously it costs a lot of money to spread it to other counties. So I'm not sure at the moment. We would love to do more outside of our region, but anybody can use it. If you have a community group that you obviously won't get the energy clinics, but anybody is free to use the platform and get that advice. So free to share, free to use.
Okay. And another question here, okay, rather a comment. Great work. This is from Jay Vargas. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name well. Great work. Hope it gets rolled out to other regions. We hope so too as well. Okay, more questions here. I have been watching this develop over time, a great output for its Strand 2 project. This is from Mel. Verona says, would be great to have it elsewhere. Where do you get the funding from if we wanted to do this in our own areas?
Well, this was funded from the department and administered by Pobble. I can't really answer the funding side of things of where you're going to access the money. That's the question on everybody's mind. But I mean, anybody can use it. So if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, we can provide people with the resources and promotional materials. and feel free to share the service with your friends and family and community.
Okay, and just before I let you take a break, what was the motivation behind creating this hub? And is there a primary target?
Yeah, I mean, like there's so much information on energy out there, and it's kind of all over the place. And some people have got commercial, interests in providing that energy, and they want to bring you back to their service. So we wanted to create something that was independent and trustworthy, and that's another reason why we partnered with the library, because libraries are knowledge hubs, and this is another additional resource that the libraries can use to inform and educate the public.
All right, thank you very much, Michael. Please remember if you still have questions, do not hesitate to drop it in the chat. There will be room to take more questions again. In the meantime, we're moving on to our next speaker. You will be hearing from Colm O'Mahony. Colm has a vast experience within the construction industry, supervising in the delivery of bespoke renovations and extensions with the domestic sector. And then with the SEEA, Colm manages the one-stop shop services, also known as the Integrated Home Renovation Services across Europe. He's going to talk more about that. And then he analyzes energy consumption across various sectors, generating detailed technical reports for numerous building types. Over to you, Colin.
Thanks very much, Adema, and thanks, Michael, for the overview of the Community Energy Hub. As you said, it provides some amazing awareness on what's out there, and grant funding, I suppose, provides it all together. So my name is Colm O'Mahony. I'm the Housing Delivery Lead Engineer, working with Southeast Energy Agency since 2019. Primarily, I've worked on deep retrofit, better energy communities, community energy grant programs. So where we work with vulnerable and fuel-poor homeowners, trying to make their houses, I suppose, more energy efficient, and I suppose bring them along their domestic retrofitting journey. So as for my 15-minute slot today, I'm really going to talk about, as Adema said, the one-stop shop model, or the often referred to as Integrated Home Renovation Services. So as these are relatively new terms that have been brought in to help increase the renovation process. So as anyone here, and that's why we're here, is anyone that's, I suppose, completed a retrofit or being involved in a retrofit is aware that it can be a very complex and daunting task, especially for homeowners who may be from a non-technical background. And really, this is where the one-stop shop or integrated home renovation models can assist, I suppose, in increasing the renovations, retrofits for vulnerable homeowners. I suppose a key area in my background is working in, I suppose, with vulnerable tenants and fuel-poor homeowners. I suppose these are often living in the most inefficient homes, and I suppose really need the most assistance, and also, I suppose, lack the capabilities and awareness to find where that assistance is and how to get started on their renovation journey. So really the main aim or goal of the one-stop shop process is to simplify, streamline, and provide complex support to help homeowners complete the overwhelming, complex. And what I found from working with homeowners is it can often be not only financially, but emotionally draining. There are various, I suppose, one-stop shop models within Ireland and across Europe, I suppose, but really it's about providing awareness, I suppose, guidance to the homeowner in what they need to do, where and why. Procurement, ensure that the process, I suppose, is fit for purpose and it's for that particular home. And again, working the client through delivery. And again, it's really about providing one point of contact so the homeowner isn't overwhelmed with dealing with, I suppose, our traditional process of architects, engineers, contractors, I suppose, all working in a kind of fragmented sector. Again, often what's relevant is one-stop shops or energy agencies, anyone working along, I suppose, this journey, often maybe provide one service, or really this whole aim is to provide a combination of services for the homeowner. And just to touch on, I suppose, from a homeowner's point of view, if you're looking to do a home, where do I start? So you have a query, you have an inquiry, what do I do? So initially you need to get a BER assessment, which ranges your home, as we may know, from in A to G, A being the most efficient and G being the most inefficient home. Then we need to provide the homeowner with an energy audit report. And I suppose this details looking at a fabric first approach, I suppose, the most detailed, or I suppose the more specific and best elements to upgrade your home, whether it's your wall, roof, windows, doors, before you look at ventilation, air tightness, and in your heating system. I suppose once you once the homeowner is happy, then it goes down to, I suppose, the finance. Then you have to procure the works, work with the contractor, client, subcontractors. Again, we're looking at helping the homeowner to sign the contracts, accept the quote, and agree terms and conditions. And again, this is all before any works begin, and the homeowner, again, in a fragmented process, is already daunted and put off by this. So where the one-stop shop is key is helping the homeowner with a one point of contact and bringing them streamlining along that journey. And then once the works progress, it's about working with the contractors, working in collaboration to ensure that the works are up to standards. Again, we're putting in systems there, we're removing away from traditional systems and heating systems to heat pumps and renewable systems. And it's vital to understand that they're installed correctly. And especially when you're dealing with vulnerable fuel poor tenants, how to operate them correctly and the change in the system that they're getting from what they're used to. And then following that, then it's key to work with the homeowner post-works to understand maybe 12 months later how the system operates, go through the quality assurance process. And again, so that's key, and that's just a simplified process of the one-stop shop journey. But again, it's just to focus on one-stop shops, and they have been highlighted in the revised energy performance of building directive as key instruments and key concepts to help us nationally and internationally scale up domestic renovations. Again, it was also highlighted that approximately you need a one-stop shop per 80,000 inhabitants, which means, I suppose, for Ireland, that's approximately 65 to 70 one-stop shops delivering homes. Really, it's about working in with local contractors and local builders, building locally and regionally, so we can all work together and then provide retrofits at scale. As we all know, we have very ambitious targets that we're not on track. So I suppose we all need to, work together to increase the domestic retrofits. I'm just going to briefly touch on, I went through the one-stop shop process briefly and what it is. And I suppose through Southeast Energy Agency, last year we assisted 30 homeowners involving fuel poor tenants, where we delivered projects and through the SAEI Communities Energy Grant Scheme. I know there's typo there, but again, in my opinion, this isn't enough. So we all need to work together and help scale up this renovation process. And again, help private homeowners, not private, but again, fuel poor, energy poor tenants who really lack the capabilities and often the finance. And are, as I just said, and are often, and what affects me is they're living in the most inefficient homes. Again, just to touch on this project, we delivered 30 homes. The homes were ranging from C to a G rating, with 30 homes receiving a BER A rating post-works. We looked at and upgraded the fabric, air tightness, ventilation, and then looked at renewable technologies, including a heat pump and solar PV. But depending on the project, I suppose the grant funding was 30 to 60%. And this depended on the works completed and the different house types. But again, in order to work with at scale, I suppose, is this enough? Is this enough for us to help us meet our targets? Especially when we're looking at vulnerable homeowners. And there are schemes there to help vulnerable homeowners. But I know personally that there is a significant waiting time, which this also, I suppose, needs to be addressed going forward. Again, from looking at a vulnerable homeowner's perspective, there are significant barriers to retrofitting. Again, as I touched on earlier, awareness. Vulnerable homeowners don't understand, and this is where, and we've worked with Michael on the Community Energy Hub, where hopefully this can help the initial process. Where can I get this information? What do I need to do? How can I do it? They're very non-technical people, and they're often being told very technical terms. Why do they need to do it? We have a traditional mindset of it's okay to live in a cold, damp, and mold home. We sit down often in our sitting rooms there with our jacket and our hat on, where it's taken for granted that okay, it's winter, it's okay to see mold and damp on the walls. Where I suppose, I know from personal perspective, and most people on the call probably had it, where this isn't correct, I suppose, and I suppose it's not fair to see vulnerable homeowners living in these conditions, and they seriously need help. And where this touches on to the next barrier is there also is a lack of skilled workforce across the whole industry, a lack of competent retrofit contractors to complete the works, lack of technical advisors, assessors, engineers. Again, there are significant training centres now being, suppose, newly built and just up and running, which hopefully this can increase the weight and the workforce in the retrofitting industry. Touched on briefly there that there is programs there specifically for fuel board tenants, but often the waiting list, the cumbersome process, the administrative burden, I know from working with some fuel board tenants, often can be very off-putting to them. And as everyone knows, finance is the main barrier to completing retrofits at the moment, especially when we're looking to do a full move away from shallow retrofits and go to more deep retrofits. There's significant costs associated. There is the new Home Energy Upgrade Loan Scheme. It's providing low interest finance for energy renovating works. And hopefully this, in addition to the SEI or any grant funding program, can assist homeowners and make the financial aspect of it, I suppose, easier. But I suppose what people often overlook in is the actual benefits, the direct and indirect benefits from upgrading your home. I know there is an increased property value. There's the environmental benefits, the reduced carbon footprint. Again, you can often have reduced utility bills, but this may often not be the case if you're working in very inefficient homes, because you might have been living in 13 or 14 degrees, whereas now you're going to be living in 18 to 21 degrees in a more comfortable home. So again, it might be often overlooked that it's dependent on the home and the actual reduction in utility bills. One of the main benefits that I've seen is the increased thermal comfort, indoor air quality, and generally quality of life. As I say, we're moving away from damp, mold, condensation, again, lack of ventilation, fires with no vents in any rooms. I suppose this is it's not good for your health. As again, and it's the big significant benefits, health benefits for vulnerable tenants who often may have respiratory breathing problems, elderly tenants. So again, it's focused on the actual post-works occupancy of the homes. Now again, as I've touched on what one-stop shops, I suppose, what they briefly are, I suppose how Southeast Energy Agency has implicated our model, and this is really an EU peers project that I'm working closely on, and it focuses on one-stop shops, integrated home renovation services. And really, the project aims to increase the delivery of domestic renovations by improving and accelerating one-stop shops and integrated home renovation services. I touched on it's a relatively new concept, and it's really introduced to simplify and reduce the burden for homeowners through the whole renovation process. Historically, as we know, retrofitting has been highly fragmented, multiple stakeholders all not working together. Again, energy renovations are often carried out alongside non-energy works, especially in fuel poor homeowners, where they can be, I suppose, where you're modifying the internal layout for future-proofing of the home. These works, I suppose, have to work together in order to, I suppose, deliver a project. So just on EU peers, I suppose, there's the community of practice, which is at its core. And this is an online space where anyone and all of us along and involved in a renovation sector or a one-stop shop process and come together and exchange ideas, share knowledge, really build our one-stop shop network within Ireland and across Europe. I suppose find out what is working and what's not working, and then how can we work together to increase renovation rate. Again, as I'd like to finish up on, again, we have ambitious targets to meet, and I think my key, it's collaboration and not competition, is the key to success. So again, let's work together, accelerate the renovation wave, and make energy efficient homes a
Please,
reality
if you have
for all.
questions, you
And just
can
like to
go
finish
ahead
on,
and
it's
put them
for
in the
vulnerable
chat, or you can
homeowners,
raise
it's
your
key
hands
to have
and
a
we'll take
just
your questions. We
transition,
have a
and
few
just to
here,
ensure that
starting
no
with
one is left
Verona.
behind.
Are the 64 one-stop shops there now, or is
Thank
this
you,
something
Adima.
that needs
There's any
to be
questions?
developed? Thank you
I'd
very
just like
much.
to, which is to streamline the
We
renovation
have, I
process.
suppose, there's a
But
one-stop shop
nationally in
and
Ireland,
integrated
we have
home
an
renovation
SEI
concept
registered
that's coming
one-stop
from
shops,
Europe.
and that's, I suppose, slightly different to the EPBD model. But we have, and in fact, we're actually ahead of some other countries from working in that project, where we have, I think it's 24 now, registered one-stop shops. Southeast Energy Agency isn't an SEI registered one-stop shop, but we deliver through a one-stop shop model. And I'd just like to make, I suppose, that clear. But I suppose across the country, including SEI registered one-stop shops and one-stop shops including energy agencies, we need, there's a directive to have one per every 80,000 inhabitants. So that's roughly the total amount of one-stop shops within locally and regionally to deliver, I suppose, our targets that we need.
Okay. Next question is from Jay Vargas, IGBC. Yes, by the way, IGBC is our advisory partner for the EUPS project. And Jay is asking, would digitizing or aggravating the process help to scale the delivery of energy renovation to homes for vulnerable tenants?
Yes, and that's key, I suppose, Demon. We've been working with on the call, I suppose, like people like Retrofits, and there's other, I suppose, digitalization tools where I suppose we all know AI and digitalization is coming in, and it's a key to the future. It's something we're working on. It's not an area that I'm a specialist in. I suppose we are working with, again, surveyors, contractors to use more online tools and AI, I suppose, to streamline the process. And again, this is how we can increase renovations at scale. And if they have any, I suppose, because we are our partners, if we would like to chat later, I suppose, if they have any recommendations, we'd be delighted to have a call and go through with some of our team members.
Okay. And next, Verona says, cost is a major factor to why people are not upgrading. Also, the grants were only given out if the full BER test recommendations were carried out. If they could be done bit by bit over time and still get the grants separately, then, another message entered there. Okay, so I'll just take that last part again. If they could be done bit by bit over time and still get the grants separately, it would be easier for people.
And
Okay.
I think that's a very good point to Dima, because I suppose, because the way there's, suppose, the grant funding there's the individual grants, there's the kind of the warmer homes or for fuel poor grants, and there's the one-stop shops. Now with the individual grants, where as you say, you're allowed to do your attic and your cavity, but at the moment there's not an individual grant for windows and doors. There's not an individual grant for floor. So there's only, and we have we done a webinar previously where we had the actual different types of grant funding available. But again, in my mind, and we fought for it, where I'd call it a shallow retrofit program, where when you get your home energy report and it provides you with your roadmap, you shouldn't have to do all that at once, because that is a significant cost. So you should be able to go up, and there's talks of bringing these programs in where you are a shallow retrofit, where you can do piece by piece. Because again, look at point one, whether it's 1 month or 6 months later, and be able to get the grant funding for each measure. But at the moment, you can do for your attic, cavity, walls. There are fabric elements, but there's, I suppose, only through the one-stop shop. And there's certain elements that aren't included that you can't get in the individual route. And I suppose it is a barrier again to completing retrofits. Because as we know, like for floor, windows and doors, it's these type of things that are, I suppose, one of the main elements that need to be retrofitted.
Yes, I totally agree with Colum, and I'll just say that please, if you'd like to join the community of practice that Colum talked about, so after this webinar, a feedback survey will pop up and you can register to join this community of practice. It's totally free, and the aim is just basically preferring solutions. So just like you have done that, you could be part of this team and then work together alongside Colum to also see how we can just help resolve these issues in Ireland and Europe as a whole. And another peg of it is that you get to connect with other countries because the EUPS project is also running across other European countries, and there is a central community of practice which you would have access to. Now, this next question is from Madeline Carroll. How many PV panels are required to dramatically reduce energy costs over the summer months? Is there any
Again,
plan?
that's that. I know I don't want to talk sound like a politician. Everything I say is a case by case basis. But again, depends on the size of your home and I suppose and the amount of electricity or energy that you're using. Again, are you using it during the day? I suppose the best thing with solar PV now is where before there wasn't a set tariff to sell it back to the grid. Now, if you're producing excess energy, you can sell it back to the grid. But again, it's about initially analyzing your energy consumption. So what you need, what you're consuming throughout the year, and then you could size your PV panel based on that. And again, it depends on the orientation and I suppose the available roof space that you have.
And the next part of that question is there any plan to have better capture, or rather to have better capture of solar power over the darker winter months?
Sorry, Dima.
Are there any plans at all in Ireland to better capture solar power over the darker winter months?
Not something I'm too familiar with, Adeem. I suppose I know they're increasing the efficiency of the panels and are looking to, I suppose, install solar PV. I suppose, really, in my opinion, across most rooftops that we have. But again, I know there's a CPV, new PV program coming out, but also the grant funding for the existing PV program has been reduced because the payback for solar PV, I suppose, has reduced over the last significant amount of years. But I know that doesn't touch on the question there, but I suppose it's something I'm not too familiar with, Anima.
Okay. Thank you so much, Colin. And if you still have questions, please, you can throw it in the chat. In the meantime, we're going to, okay, let me see. Did someone? Yes. Um, Give me a second. Let me just try to go through some of the new questions that just popped in. Okay, so someone is asking, will solar PV work when the electric goes off?
It depends, I suppose.
Okay.
If you have a battery, I suppose, installed, as in, I'm not a specialist in solar, but if your battery, I suppose, running, then that's the point of putting in a battery. I don't want to be compromised here, but again, it's solar PV in an area, as I said, that I'm a specialist in. But again, if your electricity goes off and everything's gone, like if people say your heat pump is gone, my electricity, my heating's not working. If I've no power, that's the same with a traditional heating system as well. So if your electricity goes and you don't have a battery, then I suppose your PV system, depending on the configuration of the system, will probably shut down.
Okay. Mel is also asking, we expect to see better support for, or rather saying, we expect to see better support for staged retrofit using renovation passports next year.
Yes, and this is something I hope the mill I'm thinking of that Mel has been working on, I think, for years, and we've been promoting it ourselves, where it's a key instrument that could increase the amount of retrofits, especially for vulnerable homeowners, where the cost to maybe just do their attic or just do their cavity wall, as I know myself, is a significant cost. So bringing in the renovation passports, or so as previously energy roadmaps, I think is going to be, Mel has done some work on it, it's going to be key to success and key to increasing domestic renovations, especially for fuel poor tenants and more, I suppose, estate and community-led renovation projects.
Kieran Savage says, okay, sorry, the questions are rolling in, so it ends up moving the other ones. Okay, so Kieran says, do you need planning permission to have external insulation? As I have read some news stories on RET where homeowners have been told to remove external insulation from their homes.
No, I see that there was a one case, all right, and it brought a lot of traction about external insulation. we went into the planning. It depends, I suppose, again, on there's a major renovation works, but ideally, no, in my head there, you shouldn't need planning permission to install external insulation. But just to configure their SEI, and I suppose there was a government announcement following that news event, I suppose, that happened with that homeowner.
Okay.
And to get the full
TMC
details. Yeah.
TMC says if my battery is full, it will run my home for a couple of days. Okay, that's great. Miriam says you need a switch installed so that you can isolate your system when the grid is down. Otherwise, there is a risk that electricity continues to feed into the grid. Okay. I think that's all the questions we have for now. So I am going to just,
Learning.
yes,
Thanks, everyone.
actually, yes, I like how it's very interactive. You can pop in questions. We still have about 15 minutes before we wrap this up. But in the meantime, because this is also looking back at where we have been or what we have done in the past 1 year in Ireland in respect to the European Climate Pact. So we've had a lot of engagements at citizens levels, at the national levels, lots of learn and shares like what we're having at the moment. And recently, just last month, or this is a new month. Last 2 months, we had the national conference in Dublin with, in collaboration with the European Commission representation in Dublin, and then we engaged in Tidy Towns competition. We also engaged in the Ballyhora country region. You're seeing some of our ambassadors, Councillor Maria in the middle picture, holding that pledge is also part of our ambassadors. Like I said, the ambassadors are made up of different people, different works of life. As far as you're doing something in the climate space in Ireland, you can be a part of Climate Pact. And at the same time, too, as an organization, you can engage and be a part of Climate Pact. Still looking back a few things, still currently running as well. We have the Climate Podcast. 3 episodes are up and 4 is in the pipeline. So you could go on these links. This presentation is going to be shared after. So you can go ahead, click the links, and just keep abreast of what's been happening in Ireland. So far, we have had 7 launch talks. Today makes it the seventh one, and we've had over 500 people participate. We've had different speakers. We've talked about different topics as it relates to climate change, and also available on our YouTube, so you could go and watch the previous ones. Today's recording will also be available on YouTube before the end of the week or at most earliest next week. We also engaged in Green Schools Climate Action Week, and we worked with some schools in the Southeast region. We tried to promote the whole school action. Yay, Green Schools. We went to different schools. It was really fun and very exciting. Then we had the conference last year as well. It was also really big. We worked with DG Klima and the head of the Climate Pact project. We worked with local authorities too, like I had previously said. Carlow County Council was involved in last year's conference, SCAI as well. Then at the Puka Festival, if you're familiar with the Puka Festival, we also engaged through our counselor, Councillor David Gilroy. He is a Climate Pact ambassador. We had a free stand. We got a chance to talk about the Climate Pact, and over 1,000 people attended this event. Last year, too, we had the 100 Years of Toastmasters engagement working alongside the Lord Mayor of Cork, who is a Climate Pact ambassador. So you see, it cuts across all sectors. Dr. Shirley was also part of this engagement. She is a Climate Pact ambassador and focuses on circular economy. Then the Climate Heroes Challenge last year as well, we were part of it. EU Climate Pact team emerged #1 in Cork, #13 in Ireland out of 59 teams. So you see, we work across, not just situated in the southeast, but we also engage as well at national level. So what's next for us? Just before we wrap up the second year, yes, we're wrapping up the second year. We are preparing to start year 2 of the project. Should I say year 3, 4, 5? Because we have funding. We've been approved to continue this project again for the next 2 years. But let's just put that on hold a bit and talk about the Walk for Climate. This is scheduled for the 12th to 18th of May. Last year, we had a very successful one. You can go on YouTube and see the highlights of phase 1. I know you're probably looking at the screen and you're wondering, are you telling me not to drive? Are you telling me not to use public transport? How is that even possible? Well, we understand, and we're just asking that from the 12th to 18th, if you could we just want to raise awareness. We want to help to reduce emissions from cars. Primarily just raising the awareness. Let people know. Climate change, when we talk about climate change, some people still see it as some isolated thing. It doesn't have to do with me, or let the government deal with it. Well, I can tell you for free that this next engagement we're going to do in our next phase of the project as a whole is going to be focused on what is called the multiplier effect. How do we step down? I'm sure you're in this webinar because you're passionate about the climate, because you want to learn, you want to see how to help. So we need to step it down. Aside you, me, all of us in this webinar, other people who are already in the climate space, what about the other person, the other people in our community? I'm sure we know one or two people who are not really into the climate thing. Oh no, it's just some conspiracy theory. How do we step it down to these people? So these kinds of activities like the Walk for Climate, which is what is left in this particular phase of the project, is just to create awareness. All you need to do is take a picture. Your face doesn't have to show. I know some people, we had really interesting pictures from last year. Some people did just pictures of their legs. You're free to do that. Or you could do a video. We had Dr. Alison Gilliland, who is one of our ambassadors. She actually did a poem, a really interesting poem. That was what she did as her submission. Use the hashtags Walk for Climate, hashtag EU Climate Pact, hashtag My World, Our Planet. And to the main question, how can you really get involved? You can get involved as an individual. You're going to connect with like minded people. You're going to learn. You're going to share. You're going to have access to a lot of resources. And yes, as an organization, as a local authority, you can also engage. Still the same thing. You're going to learn from other countries because the EU Climate Pact does not just run in Ireland. It also runs across so many other countries in Europe. So you will have a chance to connect. 2 months ago, we were all in Brussels, all the Climate Pact partners, all the ambassadors, all the country coordinators, everyone engaged. There was a summit in Brussels, and it's something you shouldn't miss next year. Now, because of time, I'm not going to go into all of these details you're seeing on the screen, but like I said, we're going to share this presentation. It's going to show you how you can become a Climate Pact ambassador. The selection process is done by DG Klima, although as country coordinators, we can feed into it. So you see, it's really high level. And then you can also be a partner of the Pact if you don't want to be ambassador. You can be a friend of the Pact. You can host your own satellite event. We also have funding available too to support these initiatives. So you see, you're not alone in these. There is also something called the Quick Start Tools for Citizens Engagement. What can you do? You can host events with this. You can share your results. You can register. You can just know how to plan an event. Very easy things. Things like climate games, sustainable potluck meal. If you like to cook or you feel your community, you could do that as a community. That's absolutely fine. Climate walks, that's what we're doing sometime this month. There's a photo story. There was actually a competition, and prizes were won last year, not just in Ireland, but across Europe for everyone who participated in this photo story. And then the winners had a chance to exhibit all their photos. You can be a part of this if you like to take pictures. And no, you do not need to be a professional photographer to engage in that. There is also the peer parliament. There are local climate action groups that you can form. There's so many things that you can do. And there is also what we call the A World app. All you need to do is download the app from your Play Store, and then go ahead, document your carbon prints. It's a really interesting app. You should try to check that out as well. So I want to say a very big thank you to all of us. If you need more information, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, we're everywhere. You can contact us, you can send a direct email, and someone will definitely respond to you. I want to also use this opportunity to say a very big thank you to everyone who joined us. Lunch Talk 1, Lunch Talk 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is the seventh one. We thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much as well, Colin. Thank you so much, Michael. I would say please brace up and wait for the next round. We're also going to be partnering with several other projects like we did now, partnering with EUPS project, with the Community Energy Hub project. So it's not just focused on us. Like I said, we're not trying to replicate something, or rather, we're not trying to create something new. We are working on the things that are already existent. Just going to see. Okay, a few comments here. Oh, thank you so much, Bajas. Shared interesting resources for the EU project on the customer journey for home energy retrofit. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yes, turnkey. Yes, thank you. And also says here's a report on building renovation passports from 2019. Yes, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing these resources. This is the beauty of these lunch talks because it's very interactive. Interesting resources for the EU project. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please go ahead and share. Okay, a lot of comments. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Okay, thank you all. Great information. We see you, James. Thank you. Thank you. Keep doing the good work. Mel says excellent work. Alan, thank you for the session. Martin says great webinar. Thank you. Oh, by the way, Martin too is part of the community of practice for the EUPS project. So it's a great place. You should network. Again, the feedback survey, it's important we feel this, please. This will enable us to know what to do better and also for you to join the community of practice. Be a voice in Ireland. We need you, not just the local authorities, not just the government, but we need you to shape these things. And don't forget to check out the resources on the Community Energy Hub. Thank you. We've come to the end of this webinar. Thank you all again for joining. I know I've been doing a lot of thank yous, but I really have to appreciate everyone. We've been doing this since last year, and this is the seventh one. So, excuse me if I'm really excited that we have been successfully able to just get this done as well. A very happy new month to all of us, and have a beautiful rest of the day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Great summer.
Thanks, Adema. Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.